Ever flipped through a magazine and kind of felt, oof, I wish I looked like that? Yeah, you're in good company. We're diving into something that's both totally relatable and surprisingly deep. Like, what makes a perfect body anyway? And how has that idea shifted over time?
Well, lucky for us.
We've got a fascinating YouTube video to get us started.
Oh, cool.
It's from Canal Cultura Visual. They call it O Corpo Perfetto na Arte, which basically means the perfect body in art.
Okay, I've heard of them, yeah.
And they kick things off with a bang, showing us 3 very different Venuses, like side by side.
Like the Roman goddess?
Yep. Well, kind of. There's an ancient sculpture, like 20,000 years old. Then Botticelli's famous Renaissance painting.
Right.
And then, bam, a modern-day ad. The whole 9 yards.
Oh, wow. So, like, across millennia of art history.
Yeah, exactly. And they look totally different, right? But here's the kicker. They're all about that ideal female form.
Huh. See, that's what I find so fascinating, because idealized almost never equals realistic, does it? Like, take those ancient Venus statues, all those curves, the emphasis on certain features.
Yeah.
Back then, that wasn't just about beauty, that was about abundance. 20,000 years ago, survival was tied to food, to fertility. So a woman who represented that plenty, that was powerful.
I never thought of it like that. Makes you wonder if even back then people were looking at those statues and feeling a little insecure, huh?
Oh, I bet. But fast forward to, say, Botticelli's Venus in the Renaissance. Now she's all about divine perfection.
Makes sense. It was a super religious time, right?
Yeah, exactly. The human body, especially the female body, was often seen as a reflection of God's ideal. So artists weren't just painting what they saw, they were painting what they believed.
And then we land in today's world, and Venus is, well, she's often sculpted more by plastic surgeons than by artists, right?
Sadly, yes. And it's like we've gone from celebrating abundance to, well, to manufacturing this kind of artificial perfection that really preys on people's insecurities.
It's true. But, okay, one of the things I loved about this video, it pointed out how all these little artistic choices, like which features get emphasized, tell us way more than just, hey, this culture thought X was hot.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a secret code to unlock their values, their priorities, what really mattered to them.
So it's like a visual history book, but instead of boring dates and names, we get bodies.
Exactly. Take a look at ancient Egyptian art. You won't find a lot of curves. They were all about order, symmetry. Even their figures look super structured.
Which, I mean, makes sense when you think about it. Their whole civilization was built on that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pyramids? Talk about structure.
Precisely. They even used grids in their art to maintain these super specific proportions, showing how important precision and order were to them. But then you have the Greeks, who were obsessed with those athletic, idealized bodies.
Oh yeah, those statues are incredible.
But while still idealized, their idea of perfection felt a bit more attainable, don't you think?
You're right, yeah.
It reflects their thing for heroes, striving for excellence, pushing yourself to the limit.
Right, like their art was saying, hey, you too can have a six-pack and perfect glutes if you just hit the gym hard enough. Which, let's be real, is a whole other kind of pressure.
For sure.
But it does make you wonder, what do the body types we see celebrated in our media say about us?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. What values are we reflecting back at ourselves? Man, that's something to think about.
Yeah, it is. It really is something to think about, isn't it? I mean, these ideals, they don't just like disappear.
Totally.
They really shape how we see ourselves, what we want to be, even our anxieties about our bodies.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of anxieties, the video goes on to talk about this like really big shift.
Ooh.
Yeah, in how we think about the body.
Okay.
We go from this Renaissance idea of the body as God's creation, almost sacred, to Darwin, evolution, biology. It's like this huge change.
And that shift, that had some serious consequences. Yeah, because suddenly the body isn't about divine design anymore, you know? It's all biological mechanics.
I see.
We start looking at it through this scientific lens, zeroing in on the flaws, the imperfections, the things that can be measured and analyzed and picked apart.
Wow. That's quite the change.
Right.
And not exactly like the path to self-acceptance.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And to make things worse, this happened right when mass media was blowing up.
Oh, interesting. So not only are we dissecting the human form in labs,
Exactly.
we're also inventing photography, film. Suddenly, everyone can see these images.
Yes, exactly. So it's not just your reflection in the mirror anymore. It's like, bam, here's everyone else's body too. And often they're touched up, manipulated,
airbrushed to oblivion.
to present this totally unrealistic, unattainable ideal.
It's like a recipe for insecurity,
Completely. It's like this perfect storm. You have science scrutinizing every inch of us.
Right.
And then technology just blasts those images out to the whole world.
And that brings us to this whole concept of body shaming.
Right. Which, by the way, would make zero sense back in Botticelli's day.
That's such a good point. Like back then you might compare yourself to, I don't know, the other people in your village. But now
Now it's everyone on Instagram.
it's like the whole planet.
And the crazy thing is, those images we're bombarded with are often not even real. Even the people in the pictures don't look like that in real life.
It's crazy making. But okay, so how does art play into all this? Like, how does it reflect this very modern anxiety we have about our bodies?
It's complicated, but one way is this weird tension we're seeing between, like, a lot more diversity in images.
Which is good.
Yes, absolutely. But those old ideals haven't actually gone away, have they? It's not that simple, is it? It's like post-mass doesn't mean mass media disappeared. It's more like it exploded, into a million little pieces. Every subculture, every little group online, they've all got their own platforms, their own ways of saying, this is what's beautiful and never been.
So instead of one Venus, it's like we're surrounded by dozens of them.
Exactly. And they all have different ideas about perfection. No wonder everyone's freaking out.
Right. Okay, but how does art fit into all this?
We definitely see this fragmentation in art, too. Contemporary art, it's not afraid to show all kinds of bodies.
That's true.
Different styles, different ways of representing the human form. But that brings up a huge question.
Yeah,
Has this explosion of ideals actually made it harder to, like, what we see in the mirror?
Well, that's a good question.
Like, do we just feel pressure from more directions now instead of less?
It's like the more choices you have, the harder it is to be happy with what you've got.
Exactly. And that gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? How we see ourselves, how society sees us. It's all tangled up with these ideas about beauty that never stop changing.
This has been, wow, we went from ancient goddesses to Renaissance masterpieces to like Instagram filters and body dysmorphia.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. And it all makes you think, right? Like, if you can have an artist create the ideal body for today, not perfect, but ideal.
Oh, I like that.
What would it even look like? What would that say about us, about what we value? Something to think about. And hey, while you're thinking, head over to social media. Let's keep this conversation going. Use the hashtag #DeepDiveBodyImage. We want to hear your take on all this. Until next time, remember, you're already a masterpiece no matter what those ancient statues or modern magazines try to tell you.